Welcome everybody, my name is Fausto from Fausto Home Living, and today I'm going to show you how to make the perfect garden box. I'm going to also talk about the 5 biggest mistakes that people make making a box that you don't want to make. So let's get started. So right here is the area where we basically build the garden. You can see that I already got the sprinkler hose already made. It's very important that you have irrigation working. We're going to talk about that irrigation and how to set it up properly. But I'm also going to border it with some 4x4 pressure treated wood. Kind of helps me level out the playing field. I want to show you how to do that. All right, one of the big mistakes that people make is they forget to add an irrigation system. Now, I don't know if you're interested of coming always the water back of your garden, but an irrigation system is very important. Now, I have this connected to my other garden that I trenched a hole from the other side to here. Now, if you don't have the luxury of having a sprinkler system or luxury, you could tap into your hose from your house, and then you could put a clock on there and you could just trench it into the ground. So if you don't want to have it exposed, if you have to cut through the grass, it's very easy to cut the grass, but have it buried. But an irrigation system is very important because certain plants need certain water, and you might use a regular irrigation system, but sometimes you might give too much water and it could kill your garden. But it's one biggest mistake that people make. Don't forget the irrigation system. All right, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna lay out the whole flower pot that we're gonna do, basically the garden box. Now, everything usually comes by 8-foot length, so I'm actually making one a little bit bigger because I have more room, but usually you wanna make them 4x8 because you wanna be able to walk around them when you're making it. Now, the second biggest mistake that people make is they just make a box and they put it down, but you gotta make it level. You just can't take this and just put it and build a box around it. So if you look at other people make it, you'll notice they will not make a 4x4. So I got 2 pressure treated 4x4s, and I basically laid them out because this is gonna be your foundation of your box. So it makes it easier when you build it, you just lay it out right on top of it. It's a little bit more work, it's a little bit more expensive, but trust me, it's worth every penny. Now, once you have that done, now it's easy to level. So you got the leveler, we laid out the box perfectly around, and now we can see that it's leveled, and as we work our way around, it's leveled. So now when we build our box around it, it'll go up nice and easy and fast. All right, one thing I want to point out to you and show you why it's so important to build a foundation with the 4x4s is you could see how easy it is. It just stands. You see, when you're doing the boxes the other way, you're trying to put it together, it's falling apart. But now you could sit it, you could work nice and level, nice and easy, can nail it in, and you can move the box nice around, easy, around the size that you're making your box by having the foundation put in there. Remember, a big mistake a lot of people make. Now, you notice that we're using 2x10s. The reason I use 2x10s is because you want it high, your bed. You could use 2x8s or 2x6s, but you really would like a higher bed because, first of all, the main reason having a big bed is because you don't want to have like the rabbits start coming up, because I know a lot of people have an issue that they build these gardens and like they get attacked by rabbits or other types of predators out there. But it's also easier to get to your plants when it's a lot higher, and it also makes your plants look higher. So it's easy, you don't have to bend down all the time, and it also traps the water. But I will show you when I start filling it in that you don't have to put so much soil in here that you think like, oh my God, it's a bigger box and I gotta need more soil. No, it's not the case. I'm gonna show you how to save some room inside the box that you won't need so much soil. What's pretty cool now is that these electric guns are actually very handy. I am basically using this nail gun just to sister a little bit. Eventually we're gonna use deck screws, but instead of worrying about it and like, screwing it and falling apart and this and that, I'm just using these as temporaries just to temp it out, move it around, because if I make a mistake, it's just easy to pop them right out. That's what's nice about using a very thin nail, which is another mistake that people make. So if you have one, a nail gun, it works out great. If not, you could still just get away just screwing them in together. Now, if you notice, I have these 4x4s. Now that I kind of sistered them together, now I have a 4x4, which is my corners. So this is really nice because now it really holds it together, the whole thing. So instead of just having a box, because eventually you can move around, split, but when you're nailing and you're screwing into this with the deck screws, this thing ain't going anywhere. So very important that you get these, measure them the exact height. I recommend you not to cut them until after you put your box together, and then you could actually get the right exact height that you're getting. If you come over here, I'll show you inside the box. You'll notice it's sitting right on top of the 4x4, so you have a really nice, good foundation, so it's not going anywhere. This is why a 2x4, 2x8, 10, what this is, at least you have some wiggle room and you can move things around. That's why the foundation is so important. All right, another thing, when you purchase your wood, be careful, because wood has been, in very high demand. Be careful there's no splits in them. You have to go through. I probably went through 3 to 4 different planks until I found the right one I wanted. You want to make sure that they're straight, and you want to make sure there's no cracks in them. Because remember, this is going to be sitting, you're using this to add your wall. So the last thing you want to do over time, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So make sure there's no cracks in any of your 2x4s or 2x10s or 2x8s. This is the coolest part about building this bottom wall. It's that when you put it and you sit right on top. Look, perfect, doesn't move. See what I'm saying? So that's why having a level floor is very important. Remember, we're building 2 levels, not 1 level. You always got to build 2. But like I said, you could see how nice, and it just sits perfectly and it's easy to nail down. We made the box. It looks great. I really am very impressed with what we built. Now what I need to do is I need to show you is now we're going to set up the irrigation system inside. Once again, if you don't have a sprinkler system that's separate from your garden, that's great. You could always run one right out of your hose with a clock on it. You want to kind of keep it away from the sprinkler system in your house, because sometimes the grass gets more water, or it might not really get certain spots in your garden that you really need, and then you'll have some spots that will grow really big and some will be really flat. But now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the next biggest mistake that we have, which is doing the sprinkler system, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to fill this thing up. Now what we're going to do is, now I got the box laid out nice and perfect. Now we're going to use deck screws. I'm going to screw into these 4x4s to really, really tighten the box so it doesn't go anywhere. But we always want to check the inside. Now it's easy to move it around. Maybe some spots a little bit off, some spots are pretty even, but we want to make sure it's sitting really nicely around this 4x4 before we really screw this thing in really tightly. All right, so these are deck screws. So these are really nice because what happens, they will actually feed and you'll get a really tight grip going right into it. And if you notice, what's also really important, what's nice with the 4x4s, is that most people will want to screw into here, but what ends up happening, you'll crack the wood. If you screw here into the 4x4, you won't have to worry about that problem. So you'll notice if you screw here, you'll get really close, and then what happens, you'll split it, which you don't want to do. All right, we're going to talk about right now is the kind of quality of wood that people always ask. Now, I'm just using regular pine. This will last probably 10 to 15 years, which is a long time. I like to use cedar, but cedar is like almost 2 to 3 times the price. With cedar will last probably maybe 15 to 25 years. So you get a lot more life expectancy, but don't use pressure treated. I don't know, I don't want the chemicals seeping into my garden. So everybody's thinking like, well, it'll last longer. Well, use the pressure treated for the base, but don't use it for your sidewalls. All right, so now we got this paper. I assume a lot of you are very familiar with it. You usually use it to put it down to prevent the weeds from coming up. Well, I like to use it to put it on the wall of the wood right here, because what happens, I don't want the wood to get damaged. You want to get the wood to last longer. This will kind of prevent the dirt and the water from penetrating through it, and then it will hit the wood, so it'll make the wood last. And not only that, but then whenever you water it, you won't get the soil that's gonna come in between the cracks over here. You can see there's cracks over here. So this kind of helps prevent it from leakage. So I just put it around the exterior, the interior wall, around the whole inside, which you could basically see, and how I kind of stapled it all together. So it doesn't really take that much long. You don't need a lot of it, unfortunately, but it will help the length and the life of your garden box. Now, because we built this foundation, this 4x4, one of the problems that I encountered, because I was trying to attach 2 pieces of wood together, it got unleveled. So what was nice about having this foundation wall, I was able to put a little shimmy piece of wood over here in the bottom, so I kind of brought it up a little bit. And I'm not worried about the soil getting through it, because by me using the paper on the interior wall, that's going to prevent it from leakage. But you want to have a nice, straight, level garden box. You're going to notice it, and it's going to bother you. So very important. That also another reason why it comes very handy to have a nice leveled 4x4 underneath your garden box. All right, now we're going to talk about the irrigation system. Like I told you, I already ran the pipes. The pipes are in the ground and everything. I got my nice little pop-up right here. I kind of like, I'm not sponsored by them, but I like to use Hunter. Hunter kind of makes pretty good quality stuff compared to them. And what I have right here, and this is a really cool tool. This little piece right here, this adapter, is basically going to make my little, what's called a fin line. So I'm going to attach this to this, and then I'll be able to run a nice tiny little hole, tube that comes around, and I'll either put little sprinklers around it. Because what happens as the garden gets thicker and bigger, you're not going to be able to get water on certain spots. So you want to be able to run a little line going around the sprinkler system, and you'll be able to hit certain areas, and you'll see it when we get everything set up, how handy that comes in. It's actually very popular. Irrigation companies like to use it for your flower boxes. So if you have like a bunch of flower pots around, and you know how pain that could be to water them all the time, this is such a great tool. It's actually, I'm pretty spoiled because I actually have them all over my house. But it just makes it a lot more fun and a lot more easier, because when those really hot days come around and you start getting lazy, you're really going to want some of these around your house too. All right, now here comes the fun part. Now what we're going to do is the box is ready, the walls are ready, irrigation is in. Now we're going to do one of the biggest mistakes, which I talked about that people make, is how to fill in the box and how to save it. Because you notice this box is pretty big, and it looks like you're going to need a lot of dirt. But you don't. You probably only need half, because your garden only needs about that deep. So what are we going to put on the bottom? That's what I'm going to show you next. All right, the first thing we're going to use is we're going to take leftover boxes, and you know how those Amazon boxes can be annoying. But we're going to start off with boxes, and we're going to put them on the bottom. Now this is a really good type of organic base to put down, because the worms could go in there, and it kind of will help from the weeds from coming up, but it won't make your flower box or your garden box almost like a pool of water. This will also help absorb and break down as more of a mulch. So I'm going to put this down on the bottom, and you're going to see what it's going to look like, and then I'm going to show you the next step that goes above your boxes. The next layer we're going to do in our garden box is we're going to put hay. Now hay's very inexpensive. It's going to break down. It's going to help aerate the soil, and it's going to help build up the garden higher. Once again, it's a lot of soil to put in there, and I know a lot of you don't have the time to do it, and you probably keep going to the store if you're buying bags of it. But this will take up a lot of room inside, and it'll build a very, very good foundation in the bottom of our garden box. Like you could see how like it takes up the whole box. That little hay just takes so much room. And what does a thing like this cost? Hey, $10 for being cheaper, depending where you are. Maybe some of you buy for Halloween and don't even know what to do with it, you know, for decoration. But look at that, it took up the whole thing. Wow, I'm even impressed, more than I thought it was. So now we got all the hay put in here. Now we're gonna put what I call my secret sauce compost that I'm gonna put here, my soil. And you know, as high as it looks, the soil is going to push it down. But like I said, it's going to be a really nice base. But if you watch one of my other videos, I'm going to show you how I actually make the perfect soil, the perfect garden soil that will go in here. So don't forget to watch my other video that's going to show you how to make it. But now what we're going to do is the final touch. Fill it up. You can see how it's starting to go down, how it drops. So now that we're done, the box is all filled in, we got a nice, great little soil in here. Hopefully you watched my other video that showed you how to make a really good, nice, mulched soil. Now I'm gonna hook up what's called the fin lines. Now, we added the sprinkler system in here. The problem is we're only gonna get the water going this way. Obviously, we're gonna keep the water away from the play set. We're gonna push it here. But remember I told you that sometimes the water, when these plants start growing, you know, you have to be able to make sure you're getting the water all over the place. So we got these little fin lines. We're going to connect it here, and we're just going to trench it here and just get them set up, get all prepared, because we already have these adapters in there. We're just going to hook them up, and then we're ready to go. Okay, we're going to put the hose in here. All you got to do is just squeeze that in there, like that. And she's all done. Dig in the hole. Keep it close to you can. As close as you can. Digging it out. You can see how it works really nicely. All done. All right, so we're all done. The box is all finished. I got the sprinklers in. I got everything in. It's only one thing to do. Let's see if we can blow any lines. So we're going to go on my little app over here, turn on my irrigation, see how it works. Let's step back and not get wet. Oh, there it goes. All done. You know what's next? Got to put the garden together. So anyway, if you like what you saw, you like how I build my boxes, if you want to know more about Fausto Home Living, just like us, friend us, get our alerts, join our mailing list, and we'll look forward to seeing you on upcoming events that we're going to do here at Fausto Home Living. Thanks for watching. See you soon.